Finally, after the incredibly difficult beginning to the 2024 season for the Cardinals, they've got a winnable stretch of games. Let's discuss.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily Arizona Cardinals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked On Cardinals, Alex Clancy here. Follow me on Twitter at Clancy's Corner _ follow the podcast at Locked On AZ Cards. Thank you for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen. Free wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Been lucky enough to be in sports radio in Phoenix since 2011, since pivoted to just hosting this podcast. Been doing that since 2017. Thank you so much for being an everydayer, being a part of this chapter, going on my 8th season as the host of Locked On Cardinals. Absolutely bonkers. Please go to the YouTube channel, search Locked On Arizona Cardinals. Hit that subscribe button, man. Turn notifications on. The season's going to be fun. I am on the tail end of my series breaking down each game for one segment for the Cardinals for their entire 2024 slate. These games, the winnable little bundle of games for the Cardinals, where I would be surprised if they didn't win 2, if not 3 of these games from weeks 13 through 15. Today's episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account. Use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. So, week 15, the New England Patriots, probably the most winnable of these 3 games. Week 14, the Seattle Seahawks. I'll explain why that may be the second most winnable. And then the Minnesota Vikings in week 13, there's a lot of question marks surrounding this. The Cardinals and Vikings have had bonkers games the last couple times they've played. It's been wild. Thank Greg Joseph a couple years ago for missing a 30-plus yarder in one of the most back-and-forth games the Cardinals have had with Kyler Murray as quarterback. They were down by double digits in the first half, came back to tie it, or take the lead, I can't remember, but it was a lot of points scored in that game, 40-plus points scored in the first half a couple years ago. And this Minnesota Vikings team is a very different team. No Kirk Cousins. Still Justin Jefferson. Still Jordan Addison. Still TJ Hawkinson, even though he's coming off an injury. No Dalvin Cook. It's going to be a different team. Especially with Sam Darnold as quarterback. Week 13 could very well be J.J. McCarthy as quarterback. What we do know is that Kevin O'Connell is a good head coach. He's a good head coach. There were questions surrounding it. Well, are they utilizing Dalvin Cook enough? Are they trying to feed Justin Jefferson too much? Is he not getting enough out of Kirk Cousins? With the Kirk Cousins, when they let him go, it's like, listen, Kirk Cousins is like the Mike Tomlin of quarterbacks, where I know that Mike Tomlin won a Super Bowl, but it's like above average 1,000%. Can he get you to the next level? It's a 9-8 guy. It's a 10-7 guy. He's got a ceiling. And what they've done is they ripped the Band-Aid off. They're like, we're not going to give you another gajillion dollars. So going to bring over Sam Darnold to be that bridge quarterback. They believe in J.J. McCarthy. They had a great draft. They traded up and snagged Dallas Turner, who was looked to be, a top 8 guy. Nobody saw him going past Atlanta. And then, Atlanta took Michael Penix. So that kind of changes things a little bit. And they traded up, nabbed him in the top 15, and they're going to be off to the races. The reason why this is going to be a winnable game for the Cardinals is it's either Sam Darnold, who people still champion, like, there's still a chance, guys. It's a very Uncle Rico situation. Yeah, back in 82, he could probably throw a quarterback over that mountain. But USC days are far removed from Sam Darnold now. Sam Darnold wouldn't be on his 4th or 5th team since coming to the NFL if he was the guy. So it'd be very, very interesting to see what system they run. I would assume chances are week 13 will be J.J. McCarthy time. So anytime you can go up against a rookie quarterback, which is 2 out of these 3 next game, the Cardinals most likely will be, unless Jacoby Brissett, which I'll talk about in the final segment, is Wally Pipping Drake May. I would assume weeks 13 and 15, the Cardinals will be playing rookie quarterbacks. They played against Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels earlier in the season, more than likely when Washington comes to town. So this is something the Cardinals that will have to take advantage of if they want to win more games they lose in 2024. So with Minnesota specifically, stop Justin Jefferson. Stop Justin Jefferson. Stop Justin Jefferson. That's what should be what's on the grease board. The whiteboard? The grease board? It's a grease board, but it's a whiteboard with the markers. It's a grease board. I call it a grease board. It's a grease board. Sure, Jordan Addison out of USC, very good rookie campaign last year. TJ Hawkinson's a stud. They gave him a boatload of cheese. But it's going to be stop Justin Jefferson. And you're going to see, as you have through this series, that the cornerback room for the Cardinals is going to be a true barometer test, not only of what the defense is going to look like in 2024, but also how that directly affects the Arizona Cardinals offense and the percentage of weight that they're going to have to carry. And last year, there was no talent anywhere. So it's like, all right, let's just kind of see how they play, see how hard they play, see how prepared they are. And they were prepared. They played hard. And, they definitely is strong. They definitely could have won 7 games last year with that talent. But the cornerback room is still going to be predicated upon very young players, most of them rookies or second-year guys, and then add Sean Murphy-Bunting. With Budda Baker and Jalen Thompson over the top for support, Cardinals will be playing against a lot of wide receiver ones this year. And Justin Jefferson is just the next one. And luckily through 12 weeks, 1 week after the bye, the Cardinals are going in week 13 to Minnesota. It's like, okay, you're going to know at this point if the game hasn't slowed down for these young guys, Max Melton, Elijah Jones specifically. I mean, Starling Thomas, sure. Sean Murphy-Bunting is really here to resurrect his career. And then Garrett Williams last year, who showed the game was never too fast for him. He just couldn't stay on the field because he was injured to start the season. So if you look and you see a box score, regardless if the Cardinals win or lose, Justin Jefferson had 4 for 72. It's a win for the Cardinals. That's really going to be the true test because, listen, Justin Jefferson has put up 10 catches for 180 yards and 2 touchdowns against some of the best corners in football. Some see him as the best receiver in football. I still think it's Tyreek Hill. I would still take Jamar Chase over Justin Jefferson if you're going to start an organization from the wide receiver position. But under the spotlight, yet again, is the cornerback room. Now, the Cardinals' pass rush obviously is going to be important as well. But with a rookie quarterback, it's a little bit different. You have to do more times than not a little bit less to rattle a rookie quarterback than a veteran. So this, for me, solely surrounded around if they can stop Jordan Jefferson or Justin Jefferson. And TJ Hawkinson has wreaked havoc. Jordan Addison was a touchdown machine for a chunk of last season as well. But it all starts and ends with Justin Jefferson. Can the Cardinals' young secondary stop Justin Jefferson? That will be the key to victory. You notice I haven't talked anything about offense in this entire segment. It starts and ends with Justin Jefferson and the ability to stop him. Alex Clancy, Locked On Cardinals. Seattle, 2 times in 3 weeks. Can the Cardinals take what they learned when they were up in the Pacific Northwest, whether win or lose, in the post-peak Carroll Seattle Seahawks, situation, for lack of a better phrase? Can the Cardinals parlay that into a win in Week 14 at home? I'll discuss it next. Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. This episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by the Boop Game Time app. The Game Time app is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which means getting tickets never been easier, faster, easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer you get to the first pitch, which is wild. And, there's a lot of places to sit in a Major League Baseball stadium. You want to sit in left field, maybe catch an Aaron Judge home run. You want to sit down the third base line and maybe, catch a foul ball or just witness it near one of the dugouts. You can do that too. But one of the questions you always ask is, well, what are the seats going to look like? What am I going to be looking at? Well, with the Game Time app, it takes the guesswork out of it because they have actual seat views from the seats, what you're going to be seeing before you buy it. So you're like, oh, wow, I love that vantage point. Buy. Oh, wow, nah, not really. Maybe we'll sit in center field instead of left field. Let's check that out. Oh, I love that view. Buy. Game Time app. Got you covered. Take the guesswork out of buying Major League Baseball tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms to apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets. Lowest price. Guaranteed. Seattle Seahawks. Twice in 3 weeks. Those NFL schedule makers are rascals. Thanks for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen, free wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. Go to the YouTube channel, search Locked On Arizona Cardinals, hit that subscribe button. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Have to turn down the volume with all the shouting? We'll make the switch to Locked On Sports Today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. The Arizona Cardinals play the Seattle Seahawks in Seattle 2 weeks prior. So while this is one of the more winnable games for the Cardinals, it's partially related to the Cardinals seeing what the Seahawks are a couple weeks prior. And if you followed this podcast for a long time, if you watched the Cardinals games against Seattle, you very well know these games are always weird. They're always weird. Doesn't matter who's wearing the uniforms. Doesn't matter who's kicking. Stephen Hauschka game pretty much ended his career 9-6 in overtime. Some of the most egregious kicking you've ever seen in an NFL game. Ugly games in the Pacific Northwest. Cardinals getting dubs. Cardinals giving up easy wins at home against Seattle. Like it's everything. And then Chandler Jones, the years where he would absolutely dominate a stud-laden Seahawks team going up week 16, week 17, week 18, stealing a win that the Seahawks needed. It's been wild. This, for me, is a make Geno Smith beat you game. It's a make Geno Smith beat you game. It's going to be a Kyler Murray, can you outduel Geno Smith? And Kyler struggled against the Seahawks. He struggled. I do think that with this new offense, obviously second year, but first full year with Kyler, and this is going to be, he's going to be another handful of months in by the time the Cardinals play the Seahawks. This offense will be Kyler Murray's best friend. It's going to have more of a metronome effect. It's going to be a lot less off book. James Conner, Trey Benson, Trey McBride, Marvin Harrison Jr. run during the gray area plays that I call them, especially against man coverage, where Kyler can get 5, 7, 8, 10 chunk yards in the blink of an eye. But this is make Geno Smith beat you. Coming down the stretch, Seahawks just win games. They're in playoff contention every year. And this is not, I would assume it's not going to change here. So they're probably going to have over 500 record after, 13 weeks. Probably have 5, 6, 7 wins. And the Cardinals are going to be close to that as well. I'm assuming the Cardinals will have 5 wins at this point, 6 wins maybe. So this game, while I coined it as the second winnable of this 3-game stretch and this winnable stretch that the Cardinals have of games, it's going to be Kyler Murray versus Geno Smith. Sure, pass rush. Sure, corners. Yes, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, Jackson Smith and Jigba, I'm sure, will leapfrog Tyler Lockett, and maybe DK Metcalf is the best receiver on the team. He's just an absolute stud. Kenneth Walker, Zach Charbonnet. This is going to be Kyler Murray's game to take a hold of and just show people that he's a better quarterback than Geno Smith. And regardless of how the defense is playing, he's going to will this team to victory. I know there's a lot of cliches in there, but this is the time and place of Kyler Murray's career to be like, listen, I'm a better quarterback than him. I'm going to go get this one. And while we've seen that in spurts, the majority, which is weird, and this is kind of an anomaly. I'm not exactly sure as to why. Sure, Kyler Murray's not perfect. He also didn't have the best ecosystem around him with Cliff Kingsbury and Steve Keim. When we see the holy crap, oh my God moments from Kyler Murray, the flashbulb ones for me is when the Cardinals are down 2 scores with 6 minutes to go, and he's got to come out of the woodwork. Why not just take the lead right away and go up 2 scores and then coast? Hand the ball to James Conner and Trey Benson 15 times in the fourth quarter and just bleed clock. That's the 0-1 step I want to see for Kyler Murray this year. Yes, they play in a very difficult schedule. And you know what? Sure. Every schedule is difficult for all NFL teams. You want to play that Brady Bunch game? That's great. The Cardinals have a very difficult schedule in 2024. I don't care who you compare it to. So if the Cardinals want to be relevant in 2024, this is just another reminder that Kyler Murray needs to take that step. Yes, tier 6. Yeah, sometimes it takes a little bit longer. And Kyler Murray is finally in a spot where he has the support, talent, and balance around him to do it. So this is one of those games. Yes, it's at home, of course. So you should get all your dubs at home. But Kyler Murray v. Geno Smith Kyler Murray should win every single one of these games he goes up against Geno Smith. I know they're not on the same field at the same time. I know the Cardinals defense isn't where it needs to be for the Cardinals to be perpetually relevant and be playoff contenders. But this offense, this offensive skill set, the offensive line, Kyler Murray's ability to change games, that should be plenty for the Cardinals to get a win in Week 14 at home against the Seattle Seahawks, who they saw a couple weeks prior in Seattle's home turf. They're comfortable. They're familiar with this new offense. They're familiar with the post-Pete Carroll Seattle Seahawks. Go get a dub at home. The New England Patriots, Gerard Mayo, first-time head coach. Drake May, Jacoby Brissett, Cardinals should win regardless. I'll discuss that as we roll on here. Locked on Cardinals. Your team every day. This is the winnable stretch for the Arizona Cardinals in 2024, weeks 13 to 15. Who knows how important they're going to be? What if the Cardinals go on a tear and they start 5-3? They start 6-4. There's always one of those teams that surprises people, irrespective of who they play. If that's the case, and the Cardinals roll in here with a winning record in Week 13, and they can win 2 out of 3, you're talking playoff contention. You're talking in the hunt on that, that overlay on TV, where there's a bevy of teams that aren't in a wild card spot, aren't in the division race, but are in the hunt to make a playoff spot. Cardinals could very well be on their way if they find a way to get into Week 13 with a winning record. Because this is the winnable stretch. And there's one more game, Week 16. You're going to have to wait till tomorrow because we're doing 3 a show. Where Week 16 may be the most winnable game of them all. But it's not in this, not in this show. So we're talking about that tomorrow. The New England Patriots, influx, transition, kind of the Cardinals from last year. What they've done was they've bolstered this offense to make it look different. Jalen Polk, Drake May, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Gerard Mayo, defensive guy. No Bill Belichick. No expectations. No Tom Brady or Bill Belichick. Who's the best one? This is a brand new upstart New England Patriots team, and they're going to be bad. Unless Drake May comes in, or in case Jacoby Brissett somehow becomes a playoff quarterback in his 8th year, however long he's been in the league, or Drake May comes in and takes the NFL by storm, which seems like there's going to be more of a learning curve for Drake May, which is fine. He's a young quarterback. There should be a learning curve. Cardinals should get a dub at home. This is the most Cardinals-friendly portion of the part of the schedule, and this is when the Cardinals need to show that they're pivoting from. This is one of my favorite things to say, and I think I've gotten pretty good at it now instead of how I used to. So when teams put it this way. When fans look at their favorite team's schedule, you go through the year, and every game you either go check mark for a win, question mark for maybe, X for a loss. And good teams have a lot more check marks than X's. Teams in the middle have a lot more question marks than either check marks or X's, and bad teams have either more X's than check marks or question marks. For the Arizona Cardinals, this is the transition year from when you look at the Cardinals schedule, X loss, X loss, X loss to question marks. More question marks. Can the Cardinals compete in that game? That's going to be a 50-50 game. To eventually, hopefully more green checks. This is a win for the Cardinals. This is a win. And I know any given Sunday. I know Willie Beeman. Okay? I understand all that. This is in a vacuum, very simple, in crayon. That should be a green check mark for the Cardinals in Week 15 at home against the Patriots. And that's showing that the Cardinals are slowly but surely getting back into relevancy. Cardinals last year, all X's. Cardinals could have 100% lost all 16 games last year, especially if Kyler Murray missed the whole year. This year, Seattle, Week 14, check. New England, Week 15, check. Week 16, you can look ahead. I'm not going to talk about it yet. Probably a check. That's showing the growth organically through free agency, through the draft, compounding a couple years of positive interest on top of each other. And we're going to see where the Cardinals are in those 3 columns as other teams see them. Sure, you can have the top teams, still going to have the Cardinals as a check mark if they see them on their schedule. Win. But after this season, it could very well be midway through this season, you're going to start to see a whole bunch more question marks, those 50-50 games, which will breed more check marks for the Cardinals, when they look at their own schedule moving forward. So this is a green check mark game for New England, or for the Cardinals. They got to win this game. And I think they will win this game. They always play like the last Patriots game that really hung true was the Cam Newton game, the Isaiah Simmons. I don't know if you remember. Final drive of the game. Isaiah Simmons hits Cam Newton out of bounds, makes him fly like Isaiah Simmons would have hit me, not a 6'7", 260-pound Adonis of a quarterback. And there's a question mark on if it was really a late hit. People are like, well, if Cam Newton flew like that, there's no way that was legal. That's kind of what the rest said. And then Nick Folk made a field goal to end the game, and the Cardinals lose. I think it was 19-16. It's a tie game. It was an ugly game throughout. Bad coaching. We're used to that. This is a game where the Cardinals need to plant their flag in the sand and be like, listen, no longer are the 2023 Arizona Cardinals here. This is a different team, more talent everywhere. And these are games that are going to be won by the Arizona Cardinals moving forward when you look at the talent on the opposing side of the field. So just like last season, with different metrics, because the Cardinals, you would assume, aren't going to pick top 5 this year. Who knows? But that momentum that the Cardinals gained at the end of last season, where people were saying, oh, yeah, I hope the Cardinals win out. Well, if they would have, they would not have drafted Marvin Harrison Jr., so you can eat your shorts on that. But this year is going to have more lingering, momentum. Getting momentum at the end of the season is usually for the birds, unless you're a team in transition like the Cardinals, where getting wins at any point in this season, even if they only have 2 wins going into week 14, it's like, oh no, tank. No. From now on, every win is necessary and important, and it doesn't matter how bad it tanks the draft stock for the Cardinals moving forward. They've got their guys. They drafted high. They got Marvin Harrison Jr. Now you go win football games, because there are bigger issues if the Cardinals win 3 games this year than where they draft, and if somebody else wins a tiebreaker and the Cardinals draft 4th instead of 3rd. Bigger issues. So going into this very quote-unquote winnable stretch for the Cardinals in week 13, 14, 15, and 16 that I'll discuss tomorrow, this is where the Cardinals move from being looked at as winnable games by opposing teams to it's going to be a tough game to, oh, that's probably a loss for the teams that are playing the Cardinals. This is where the Cardinals can stack wins, put the rest of the NFL on notice, and continue that momentum not only through the end of the 2024 season, but beyond. I was Clancy, Locked On Cardinals. I will wrap up this mini-series of 6 episodes, breaking down every single Cardinals game and what it means and what it could mean, and prognosticating where the Cardinals will be in any given week. I'll wrap it up tomorrow. Until then, remember, without you, there is no me. I'll talk to you then.